My name is Amila Hendalage. I am from Sri Lanka, currently serving as a project manager and a scrum master at Gallagher, one of the Fortune 500 companies. So before we move on, I just want you to watch a small clip from a movie called Hidden Figures. Some of you may have already watched it, but we'll first watch it and move forward with that. So, how do you feel about the moment? It was not about bathroom or restroom. It was about belonging. It was what happened when someone feels exclusion. And when environment whispers and saying, you are not fully belong here. So now let's turn same lens into our world, which is Agile. Agile at its core built on these values, the collaboration, transparency, continuous feedback, and courage. And we want, as Agilists, we want our team to be more self-organized, collaborative, open to changes in the face of openness, the power of openness. But team to be truly live on these values, they need to feel safe. They need to feel safe to use their voice. Have you ever noticed someone in your team rarely speaking during a stand-up or retrospective or any ceremonies in the scrum? Maybe you want to challenge during a meeting, but perhaps not you are doing it, or you want to admit your mistakes, but you are really doing it. Why do you think that is happening? Similarly, the Catherine in the movie, we also feel our voice doesn't belong here, and we are not fully belong to the environment. And that realization leads me to bring this topic to discuss with you today, building psychological safety in agile culture, because our team deserve to feel safe in order to shine. Okay, we'll see what is psychological safety first. And we'll discuss what is the psychological safety and why it is a condition for the healthy agile culture. And we know as Agilist and someone who follows Agile, we know there are three pillars which hold success of Agile. But we need something in order to hold these three pillars together, which not defined in our Agile manifesto, but lives within our space of our team members, which make them feel safe, which make them feel safe to speak up, which make them feel safe to make mistakes, disagree, and more importantly, which make them feel safe to be themselves. And that safety has a name. That is the psychological safety. I hope some of you or you may know this lady. She is Amy Edmondson. She is a Harvard professor. She has done 25 years of research on this particular topic, which is psychological safety. And she wrote two books, Teaming and The Fearless Organization. I invite you to read those two books. Those will give you great insight about the psychological safety. And she has come up with a definition for the psychological safety, which is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with idea, question, concerns, or mistakes. So by looking at this definition, what do you feel about this definition? For me, it looked like very simple, right? But it's really difficult to implement if you really need to develop a high psychological team. And based on her research, she has come across with 5 characteristics which demonstrate by a high psychological team. So we'll discuss what are those characteristics. First one, speak up. They don't fear to challenge the norm. That is the speak up means. And admit mistakes. Since they have a safe environment, their mistakes will become the learning, not the blaming. So they admit their mistakes. Third one, asking for help. As long as environment is safe, they never hide their uncertainty. They always share among the community or among the team. Fourth one, experimenting. When you have a safe environment, we are not fear of fail. We take risk in order to do the innovation. So that is the fourth one, experiment and risk. And the last one, respect and inclusion. In a safe environment, we value everyone's voice. So that is the fifth and last one, the respect and inclusion. So if you think about those values, aren't these what Agile built on? And if you look at these parallels, you will start seeing something important. That Agile is not just a framework, it's a human system. Think about your ceremonies in a Scrum. In order to those to be success, our team members need to be more collaborative and they need to use their voice. Use their voice to admit, use their voice to challenge, and use their voice to learn. And this is not just a theory. Google Project Aristotle, they come up with a amazing, wonderful finding. Any successful, number one factor for successful team is in their experience, qualification, or the talent. It's a psychological safety. And this safety, what makes the Agile frameworks, Agile theories into Agile movement. And it slowly turns the frameworks into teamworks and finally teamworks into the trust. So you can see, without safety, what we are doing, we just follow in the step of a process. But with safety, it becomes a movement. Movement fueled by trust, courage, and people. Okay. We'll see how we can build this psychological safety using intelligence. And that's where the cultural intelligence and the emotional intelligence comes into the story. Cultural intelligence and the emotional intelligence, the empathy, and the cultural intelligence, the understanding. When these two are together, the safety begins. And any leader who wants to nurture those 5 characteristics which we discussed about psychological team has, they need to have this compulsory intelligence in their hand. So we'll start with the first one, emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence means your ability to work with understanding your own emotion and others. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, he has explained 5 components of emotional intelligence. We'll go one by one. The first one is self-awareness, which means understanding your own emotion and its impact. And the second one, self-regulation, which means managing your own emotion under pressure. Most of the time, that's what we fail to do. And third one, motivation. Stay purpose-driven through challenges. Fourth one, empathy. We need to understand what people need and what they need. So that is the fourth one. And last one, social skill, communicating and connecting effectively. So those are the 5 components. And if you think about any leader or any person who successfully dealing with leading a team, they live with these 5 values, even they don't call it emotional intelligence. And when we start to use emotional intelligence into our daily activities, things get slowly transformed. Our retrospective will become learning session instead of blaming. And our stand-ups, those will become more collaborative work, collaborative place instead of trying to find the fault of others. Likewise, it's slowly transforming from reacting to reflection. And even our conversation, instead of we asking who's responsible for this, we will asking how can we fix this as a team, as a together. So that's the transformation it brings. But only emotion or the feeling, it doesn't give us the full story. So we need to think beyond the emotion. Uh, think about, for example, we always using this word, the personality. It's her or his personality. Personality carries the culture. So we need to understand the culture in order to uh, make it full story. That's where the cultural intelligence comes into the story, and we'll see what is that. Cultural intelligence means your ability to work with different cultures more effectively, and that's what make diversity into unity. Similarly, the emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence also can be developed inside you. So we'll see the five traits of cultural intelligence. First one, seeing the cultural context behind the behavior, which is awareness. Second one, asking before assuming, which means the curiosity. Third, how culture shapes feedback and teamwork, which is the knowledge. Fourth, adjusting your style without losing your value, which is the ability. And the final and the most important one, seeing the human before the role. Most of the time we are failing to do it. That is the empathy. And when we start leading with these intelligence, we don't just work across the cultures, but we connect through them. So now you have seen that together emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence will be laying the foundation for the inclusive leadership, where emotional intelligence help us to hear the emotion, while cultural intelligence help us to understand the meaning behind it. And when these two are partnering, we don't just work together, we build belonging together. A few years ago, I worked in an environment where there were people from different countries. So they brought different cultural behaviors. Brought different accent and different way of communicating. What make us work together? What makes us hold together was our perfect English or our the tools which we used. It's the empathy, curiosity, and the moment of patience and willingness to understand. That's what emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence will do. It will allow humans to be themselves, but let them move as a team together. Finally, so when we have these both intelligence in our hand, amazing thing will happen. The five characteristics which we discussed about high psychological team demonstrate, those will not be stay as a theory anymore. Those will become our culture. Uh, so we'll discuss about three truths of psychological safety. In my working experience, through the experience, learning, and even failures, I have come up with three truths about psychological safety, which I call three truths of psychological safety. Two of them are from my own life, and one is from the leader who deeply inspired me. I hope he inspired you as well. We'll see who he is in the coming slides. First one. When I work in Saudi Arabia in 2016 to 18. Saudi Arabia is an incredibly diverse environment. Whoever works there, whoever visited Saudi Arabia may know about the country. My organization which I work is not different than the culture. So there are people from all around the world. For example, Egyptian, Lebanon, Yemen, Indians, Pakistan, Bangladesh, but not a single person from my own country, from Sri Lanka. So when I start working, I used to uh, join with the conversation, but most of the time those conversations happen in their native language and I didn't understand what they are talking about. Most of the time it is Arabic. And you know, there's a saying called, it's all Greek to me when we don't understand something. Those days, what I usually tell to my family or friends when I'm calling, it's all Arabic to me because I didn't understand anything. Uh, Behind the humor, that is similar to Catherine in the movie, I felt exclusion. I felt my voice doesn't belong there, and I am not fully belong in the environment. And think about, I came from Sri Lanka, from a different culture, working in a diverse environment. with many challenges, and I felt I didn't actually perform even in my average level. And here comes my first confirmation meeting with my manager. And we sit, and he knows about what has happened over the past 3 months, from the day I joined. So we had a discussion. Uh, During the discussion, he mentioned about this. He tell this wonderful sentence: "You are allowed to make mistakes, but don't just make the same mistake twice." He allowed me to do the mistakes as long as I am learning. So that's the power of that. In that moment, I understood that psychological safety is not a comfort; it's a courage. It's a courage to try, learn, show up, even your uncertainty. So that is the first truth I understood. Psychological safety is not a comfort; it's the courage. And the second one, that is about my current organization. The organization which I worked was acquired by one of the largest, the company Gallagher, and my management was shifted to UK management. And whoever work with UK management, we know about the UK culture. UK is also highly diverse culture they have. So I need to work with the UK management. It's again challenging for me. The biggest question which I had in my mind was how was my English, whether my management understand my English. So we had then and there one conversation with my manager. She's a lady, and here comes the first kickoff meeting. And so my first question was to her, "Ma'am, how was my English? How is my English? Do you understand?" And she smiled and kindly replied to me and said, "I understand you perfectly, and even if I don't, I will ask you again." And she gave me the permission, speak up. Even my English wasn't perfect. And that's when I understand the power of inclusion. Making someone feel belonging exactly as they are. So that means inclusion doesn't happen by accident. It needs the intention. So that is the second truth about psychological safety. It's not happening by accident. It needs intention. And this is the third one. I hope you know this gentleman, Satya Nadella from Microsoft. So when he took over Microsoft, Microsoft was uh, known about internal battle called internal competition called knowing it all. And he completely remodeled the culture. How he remodeled the culture was he talked to his people and said, our industry deeply respect to the innovation. So what he refers to industry was the technology. The technology deeply respect for the innovation. But how innovation can happen? Innovation can happen through learning, listening, and growing. And so he he didn't create the actually he didn't create the safety, but he invited the safety. He invited the safety by showcasing even CEO can we learn, listen, grow, and even fail. So that way he totally remolded the culture from knowing it all to learn it all. And that's kind of leadership that can build the safety, not through power or control, but through humility. So that is the third truth. We cannot create the psychological safety, but we can invite it. Okay. Now let's watch the another scene from the same movie. So how do you feel about that moment? Catherine once ran under the rain to a bathroom. Later, stood in a NASA mission control room, chalk in hand, solving a mathematical calculation which helps to landing man to orbit. Same woman, same brilliance. But can anyone guess what has changed? It's the environment. When we change the environment and make it safe and belonging, brilliance doesn't need permission. it starts shine. Okay, so as a leader or any title we be bringing here, could be Scrum Master, Product Owner, or anyone, what can we do? It's simply telling your team you you are allowed to make mistakes and as long as you are learning from it. Or you can simply tell your teammate, I perfectly understand you. Even if I don't, I'll ask you again. And don't forget to lead a team and change it, making a way, the culture to change it from making it, knowing it all to learning it all, leading in that way. Because somewhere in your team, there is a Catherine who's brilliant, ready, but waiting for your permission. Waiting until someone says, you are fully belong here. So, before we leaving from here, I want you to leave with a thought that psychological safety isn't a management theory or leadership concept or something which happens in an environment like this. It's deeply human, which means psychological safety is courage we give each other to be human and the permission we give ourselves to grow. Because when team has that, they don't just improve. They start transforming and they become unstoppable. And finally, psychological safety isn't about being perfect or it's about being human together. And here's my invitation for you. Be a leader who listens and be a team member who noticed. And more importantly, be a human who gives space to another human. Because when we build a team in that way, we don't just build a great team, but we build belongings. Finally, make it inclusive, make it safe, and let the people shine. Thank you.